As the film begins, we are introduced to a couple, Andy and Victoria, who are the proud parents of a little girl named Charlie. Later on, we see them gently placing Charlie in a crib with a toy above her, lulling her into a peaceful nap before they exit the room. However, Charlie is far from being an ordinary child. She possesses a unique ability that is reminiscent of mutants. She has the power to conjure fire, a trait that leads to an unexpected turn of events. As a result of her extraordinary ability, the room is engulfed in flames. However, Andy, sensing the danger, rushes back into the room and manages to rescue Charlie in the nick of time, adding a thrilling twist to the narrative. But, just like that, we witness Andy waking up from his slumber, coming to the startling realization that everything he had experienced was merely a dream. As the story progresses to the present timeline, we see Charlie no longer a child, but a grown woman. The film then introduces us to a captivating segment where a videotape featuring Andy and Victoria is played. They are not your average individuals. Just like Charlie, they too are endowed with extraordinary abilities that set them apart. Andy in particular possesses a remarkable power: the ability to delve into people's minds, read their thoughts, and even alter their perceptions and beliefs. Moreover, Victoria possesses an intriguing ability: she can effortlessly lift objects and hurl them into the air. Their unique abilities caught the attention of a group of scientists who, without any legal authority, began to study their powers with the intention of amplifying them. Despite the odds, Andy and Victoria managed to survive the ordeal and made a daring escape from the confines of the research center. It is this extraordinary lineage that explains why Charlie, their daughter, also possesses a special ability. In the following part of the film, we see a woman approach Andy to help her stop smoking. Andy removed the thought of smoking from her mind. She was overjoyed and left, but after this, Andy's eyes started to bleed. In reality, whenever he uses his power, he experiences pain, but he endures it to earn money for his family. After some time, we observe a conversation between Andy and Victoria regarding Charlie. Victoria expresses concern that Charlie should learn to manage her power to avoid any potential accidents. However, Andy disagrees with her viewpoint. He insists that Charlie is still just a child and believes she will naturally be able to control her power just as they have when she grows older. Following this discussion, the scene shifts to Charlie at school, where she is seen happily playing with her friends. A boy once threw a ball at a girl's head and teased her, which made Charlie very upset. In response, she ran into the bathroom and turned on all the faucets, letting her anger out on the gushing water. The water soon began to steam up, filling the room with a thick mist. A teacher passing by noticed the commotion and saw Charlie through the haze. She called out for Charlie to come out, but when Charlie forcefully opened the bathroom door and stepped out, her intense demeanor frightened the teacher. After that incident, the school head called Charlie's parents, and Charlie was suspended for her actions. The head said it was like a bomb had gone off and that the police would look into it. When Andy and Victoria got home, they started to argue. Andy said they would be found soon, so they needed to leave. If the scientists found them, they could start doing tests on Charlie. While they were arguing, Charlie overheard them and learned the truth about who they were hiding from. But Charlie misunderstood and started blaming herself. Victoria tried to soothe her, but Charlie got mad and accidentally burned her mother's hand. Andy quickly put out the fire, but Charlie tried to call the police. So Andy calmed her down and stopped her. Following that, we catch a glimpse of a research center where a woman named Captain Jane is employed. Jane reaches out to a man named Rainbird and instructs him to bring Charlie to the research center. Rainbird listens attentively and agrees to carry out her request. In the following scene, we see Andy and Charlie heading out somewhere. Meanwhile, a police officer arrives at their house in response to a call made by Charlie. After the officer is sent away and goes back inside, Rainbird is already there waiting. He questions Victoria about Charlie's whereabouts, but she refuses to divulge any information. However, Rainbird, possessing a special mind-reading ability, discovers that Charlie is out getting ice cream with her dad. In a desperate attempt to escape, Victoria uses her power on Rainbird, but it has no effect on him. Angered, Rainbird grabs Victoria and begins to strangle her. After some time, Andy and Charlie return home. As they enter, Rainbird grabs Charlie. Andy, desperate and worried, pleads with Rainbird to release her and asks about Victoria. Rainbird remains silent, which infuriates Charlie, causing her to heat up the room with her anger. The rising temperature triggers a door to unlock, revealing Victoria's lifeless body behind it. Overwhelmed with rage and grief, Charlie uses her power to hurl Rainbird across the room, striking him with intense flames. The force of the attack sends Rainbird flying, and the house quickly catches on fire. Andy and his daughter Charlie flee from the burning house. In the next part of the film, Jane meets with a doctor named Joseph, who specializes in studying people with special mind powers. Jane informs him that they have located Charlie and requests that he resume his research on individuals with these extraordinary abilities. She warns Joseph to be careful and not to repeat the mistakes of the past when the government discovered their studies and shut them down. Jane reveals her plan to find more people like Charlie and form a group of them. Joseph, however, cautions her that she is taking a significant risk. He expresses concern that Charlie's powers might grow stronger and become uncontrollable, suggesting that it might be safer to stop her rather than creating a group. Meanwhile, Andy and Charlie ask an elderly man for a ride out of town, which he kindly agrees to give them. After a long journey, he brings them to his house, where he lives alone. While exploring the property, Charlie discovers a woman in a coma in the man's barn, who she learns is the man's wife. The elderly man apologizes for not telling them about his wife earlier. He explains that she fell into a coma after a car accident, during which they also lost their son. Andy and Charlie feel sympathy for him, but remain puzzled as to why he chose to keep his wife's presence a secret. The next day, a news report shows Andy's picture, accusing him of killing his wife and fleeing with their daughter. Upon hearing this, Andy attempts to explain the situation to the elderly man, but the man refuses to listen. Then Charlie intervenes, revealing that she understands the circumstances of the accident. She elaborates that he had a heated argument with his wife, which left him driving in a state of anger and frustration, ultimately causing the crash. Additionally, she informs him that the consequences of his actions are dire. His wife is now in a coma, and tragically, their son did not survive the accident. She explains that she has gleaned all this information by reading his wife's thoughts, and adds that his wife has forgiven him. The old man is overwhelmed with emotion upon hearing this. Andy then informs him that they are on the run because someone is pursuing Charlie due to her extraordinary abilities. The old man apologizes for not realizing the situation earlier and mentions that he has already contacted the police, who are likely to arrive at any moment. However, he reassures them that he will manage the situation and instructs them to find a place to hide. Shortly thereafter, the police arrive, and the old man attempts to divert their attention by claiming he was intoxicated and mistakenly thought he saw Andy. The police officer is skeptical and insists on searching the house. At that moment, Rainbird, positioned at a distance, opens fire, killing all the officers and shooting the old man in the leg as he tries to enter the house. Enraged, Charlie blasts the door open and steps outside. She rushes to check on the old man. Meanwhile, Andy spots Rainbird and urgently tells Charlie that he loves her and to flee immediately. Andy then casts an illusion, making it appear as though Charlie is vanishing into the distance while she runs away. However, Rainbird shatters the illusion and strikes Andy with a rifle. He notices that Charlie has escaped into the forest. Just then, Jane's men arrive, capturing both Andy and Rainbird, and transport them to their facility. At the facility, Jane declares that Rainbird will be imprisoned for failing to capture Charlie. But Rainbird counters, asserting that Charlie will come to the facility on her own to rescue her father Andy due to their deep connection. He further explains that Charlie is unlike the rest of them. She is like a mother to all psychics and would never abandon any of them. Hearing Rainbird's words, Jane becomes infuriated and dismisses his warnings. She confronts Andy, telling him that Charlie is not safe outside and insists that she needs to be at the facility. Jane demands that Andy call Charlie to them, suggesting that Charlie has the potential to harm people. Meanwhile, in another part of the movie, Charlie is shown in the forest. She hears her father's voice calling her and visualizes the research facility in her mind. Determined to rescue her father, Charlie begins practicing and refining her powers. As she makes progress, Charlie heads towards the research facility. In the next scene, she arrives at the facility's garage where she commandeers a guard's car and manipulates his mind. She questions him about his access card, gun, and Andy's location. The guard hands over his card but attempts to shoot her, prompting Charlie to react in anger and incinerate him. Using the guard's card, she gains entry into the facility. Charlie eventually finds Andy confined in a glass room. When she tells him that she came because he called her, Andy reveals that he never summoned her. He explains that Jane used his powers to guide her to the facility. Charlie starts to panic, and Jane arrives, declaring that she has finally come. Jane makes an attempt to persuade Charlie that the outside world is not a suitable place for her, and that collaborating with them is the only way to ensure the safety of both her and Andy. Despite Jane's insistence, Charlie remains defiant. Meanwhile, Andy tells Charlie that although he has always held her back from using her powers, now is the time for her to unleash them and destroy the facility. Spurred on by her father's words, Charlie ignites a fire. Jane warns her that if she proceeds, Andy will also be harmed, causing Charlie to pause. In response, Andy uses his mental abilities to guide Charlie, allowing her to incinerate Jane, even though it means he will be consumed by the flames as well. As Andy succumbs to the fire, Charlie tries to flee the facility, but discovers that all the doors are locked from the outside. Using her powers, she unlocks all the doors, inadvertently freeing Rainbird from his cell. In the subsequent part of the film, a guard attempts to capture Charlie, but she uses her abilities to overpower him and the others. However, a group of individuals in fireproof suits also tries to apprehend her. She hurls flames at them, but they are unaffected. At that moment, Rainbird arrives, eliminating all the guards and then kneeling before Charlie. She considers attacking him as well, but ultimately decides against it and leaves the facility. She sets the entire facility ablaze before departing. Charlie eventually finds herself near a beach, where she breaks down in tears, mourning the loss of her parents. At this poignant moment, Rainbird reappears and offers to accompany her. She agrees, and Rainbird leads her away, marking the conclusion of the movie. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Watch our next videos on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you on the next one.